All right, let's dive into something that, if you have MS, you're probably all too familiar with. Challenges with your legs. You know, that feeling of weakness or tightness that can just be part of your daily life. Today, we're going to break down exactly why that's happening, but more importantly, what you can actually do about it. So, does this sound familiar? Your legs feel like they're dragging, maybe your knee feels like it's about to give out, or there's just this general stiffness that makes getting around tough. If you're nodding along, you are absolutely in the right place. We are going to get to the bottom of this. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the real source of the problem. Then we'll zoom in on 3 really key muscle groups, and we'll wrap it all up with a practical exercise blueprint to help you start moving better right away. Okay, so when your leg feels weak or tight, it's totally natural to think, oh, there's something wrong with my muscle. But what if I told you the source of the issue isn't really in your leg at all? What if it starts somewhere else entirely? This is the big idea, the key takeaway for today. The problem isn't the muscle, it's the message. See, with MS, the communication from your brain to your muscle gets all scrambled. And once you really get that, it completely changes how we think about exercise and getting stronger. I want you to think of it like this. Your brain sends out a command, right? Like, lift my leg. That command travels down what's called a neural pathway, which is basically a communication highway to the muscle. But in MS, you've got these roadblocks on the highway. So that message might get slowed down, totally distorted, or maybe it doesn't even show up at all. And that is what you feel as weakness or spasticity. But here's where it gets really hopeful. Our brains have this incredible superpower called neuroplasticity. It's the ability to build brand new neural pathways. It's like creating a detour around that roadblock we were just talking about. And the way we trigger this? It's through specific, repetitive movements. Okay, so theory's great, but how do we actually apply this? Let's start with a really important muscle group, your hip flexors. These guys are right at the front of your hips, and they are responsible for lifting your leg. I mean, think about it. That's a key move for walking, for climbing stairs, for pretty much everything. Now, it's super important to figure out if your hip flexors are weak or if they're tight because the signs are totally different. So weakness might look like your leg dragging, or maybe you have to use your arms to help lift your leg up. You might even find yourself swinging your leg around in a big arc just to take a step. Tightness, on the other hand, often shows up as leaning forward when you walk, or maybe you have some nagging low back pain. So what do we do about it? Well, for strengthening, marching, whether you're seated or standing, is just fantastic. And hey, here's a little pro tip for you. If that seated march feels really hard, just try leaning back a bit in your chair. It actually reduces the effort just enough so you can get more reps in, and those repetitions are exactly what we're looking for. And for tightness, a simple hip flexor stretch can make a world of difference. All right, next up, the quads. Those big muscles on the front of your thighs. These are your knee extensors. Their main job is to straighten your knee and give you stability when you're standing and walking. They are so important for feeling in control. When it comes to the quads, weakness really feels like a lack of control. You might feel your knee buckle or just give way. Or maybe you find yourself plopping down into chairs instead of sitting down smoothly. Tightness, though, feels different. It's that classic stiff leg feeling where it's just plain hard to bend your knee. To build strength back up, mini squats and knee extensions are gonna be your go-to moves. Oh, and for those seated knee extensions, here's a great little hack. If you feel your foot kind of dragging on the floor, try putting something slippery under it, like a magazine or even just your sock. It helps it glide and makes the whole movement so much smoother. And to fight that tightness, a good quad stretch or even just some self-massage can work absolute wonders. Okay, let's flip to the back of the thigh and talk about the hamstrings. These are your knee flexors, and they're responsible for bending your knee. Now, this movement, bending the knee, is one of the most common challenges for people with MS, so paying close attention to these muscles is really, really key. With your hamstrings, weakness and tightness create pretty much opposite problems. Weakness makes it tough to bend your knee, which can really slow down your walking. Tightness, though, makes it hard to fully straighten your knee, and that can lead to a shorter stride and even some pain. We can tackle this with some targeted movements. So to strengthen, you're going to focus on hamstring curls. You can even just sit in a chair and focus on the feeling of pulling your heel back underneath you. And for tightness, a nice gentle seated stretch, making sure you keep your back flat as you hinge forward, is a really safe and super effective way to go. Okay, so we've broken down the muscles, the symptoms, and the exercises. But now, how do we put this all together into an approach that's actually smart and effective? It's really not about working harder, it's about working smarter. These right here are the principles that should guide you. Always focus on the quality of the movement, not just the quantity. And please, remember this, modifying an exercise is not cheating, it is smart. It's what allows you to do the one thing your brain needs most, repetition. This whole thing isn't about pushing yourself to exhaustion. It's about showing up consistently and giving your brain the practice it needs to build and strengthen those pathways. Consistency is always going to be intensity. And to really nail this all down, let's just look at this quote from our source material. This is the whole idea in a nutshell. It's not about lifting heavy weights, it's about giving your brain a chance to practice. Every single time you intentionally try to make a movement, you're sending that signal down the highway, you're carving that path just a little bit deeper. That constant, focused repetition is the key that unlocks your brain's amazing ability to change. So I want to leave you with this. Look, knowledge is powerful, for sure, but it's action that really creates change. So, thinking about everything we've covered, what's one small movement, a seated march, a knee extension, a hamstring curl, just one thing you can practice today? What's it going to be?